After years of being oppressed by saves, it is finally time. Bridal Embla should be here based off the silhouettes, and the real question is what weapon type she is, because depending on that, a different meta will die. So let's jump in and see what we are dealing with. I am quite excited and also a little bit scared. Okay, first up, there's Embla. Okay, so she's a colorless beast flyer. Okay, so this is really big because this is something I was discussing earlier with DTM and IP. So if she was a beast flyer like she was before, that means she's gonna be really powerful in ether raids because she can be a Gale Force support who can set off near saves, and if you don't have a near save, it's really easy to Gale Force defenses. So that I think is gonna be the big impact right here, as long as she does have anti-save, right? If she was a ranged unit, it would have been a bigger problem in SD, but I don't think it will be quite as big of a problem, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's check out what she can actually do. Okay, we have a preference weapon, Closing Ferrets. Okay, so essentially what this has is you have cancel remaining +1, so a very mobile unit. We have slaying, and then if her HP is greater than equal to 25%, she is going to give out a bonus to herself and a support partner. If there is no support partner, she will target the unit with the highest speed within 2 spaces. If you are not at maximum cooldown, but you're at maximum cooldown -1, you'll get an additional -1. Essentially what this does is it lets Embla just charge up Gale Forces, right? And this is really powerful. We've seen this on Valoria, right? And this is why Valoria has been pretty much like a meta support unit since she released, and then after she got refined, she got even better. And so now we have this on Embla, which is really, really big, and it's gonna kind of maybe make Valoria a little bit worse, but at the same time, it gives us a new option for that, which is really cool. Also, she's going to give a ton of stats, so she's going to get, based off the amount of outbows in 3 rows and 3 columns, she'll get that many stats +5 to a max of 14. She'll get 20% true damage based off her speed, not using AoEs, and she'll get 20% flat damage reduction based off her speed, which is really, really good as well. And then she'll get the flying transformation, which is just attack +2 and some extra movement. We also have attack speed wild, which is very, very meta. That is exactly the skill you want to see on these beast Gale Forces because it gives them a way to have special acceleration that is guaranteed, not based off stats. So very nice there. We also have a new beast skill, Beast Assault 4. This removes the condition for transformation and inflicts speed and defense -4 on the foe during combat, and it reduces the amount of pierceable damage reduction by 50%. So it's essentially damage reduction halving. Very, very nice. Very good. Glad to see this. This is actually like a very simple skill, but for Beast, it's a big upgrade. And because it is locked to Beast most likely, it means that some of the units who don't necessarily have the access to that very easily will have access to it now. We also have an upgraded version of her preference C skill, Absolute Closure. Essentially what this does is the same thing as before, where it inflicts undefended and feud on any foes within 3 columns or 3 rows, and then if there is a foe there, she will give herself dodge, which is like, speed-based damage reduction, and then she'll also negate her penalties. But now also it has the effect where if she's transformed, she'll also get +4 to all stats, and she gets full no follow-up. So a very powerful, nice preference skill there, and it is blessable, and that's the really big thing with this Embla we have to talk about, is we have a blessable way to turn off saves. Now, like I was mentioning earlier, I think the really big thing is like what her weapon type is. If she was a ranged unit, I think she would have a lot more impact in something like Summoner Duels or even Ether Raid's defense. But now with like this, where she's built, it's very clearly she is a Gale Force unit. That is going to be her main role she's going to be playing. She's a Gale Force support. She's going to be able to Gale Force herself extremely well with her own acceleration and her own ability to lower cooldowns. But she's also going to be offering support to your other units as well, which means that they're going to have an easier time Gale Forcing too, which is really nice. The one bad thing I would say about this is that if she isn't like the initiating unit, which she probably won't be, you're going to have to switch out Beast Assault 4 Wings of Mercy if she's going to be the follow-up unit, which does mean that she will lose access to her ability to pierce damage reduction, which is something to be a little bit concerned about. It's not as typically a big deal in Gale Force, and the reason for that is typically whoever is initiating is the one that really needs the firepower, right? They're the one that needs to go in, be able to get into that Wings of Mercy range, and also just take out like the big threats in the front. And then whoever comes in afterwards, they don't really have to deal with like the most difficult units, so this might not be that big of a deal, but it is something we'll have to see just like how much of an influence it has on her versatility in that role. Either way, her ability to turn off saves is a very big deal. As I mentioned, being able to turn off near saves is like, it's so strong because essentially right now we have Winter Edelgard running around, and she's like the premier Gale Force unit. And how do you stop her? You put in a very powerful near save, typically like Brave Edelgard, but there are some other units as well who can just shut her down. So that when she goes in, she doesn't kill the unit, and then she also hurts herself with all her Fury recoil damage. And then it kind of like shuts down the Gale Force slowly. Even if she kills like the save on the second hit, like she'll be weaker and it kind of just slows everything down, and then typically they'll fail their Gale Force. But with this, you can just turn off the near save. And if you can do that, that's you're just gonna have free access to their team essentially. So I think this is a very powerful GALEFORCE unit, very powerful support unit. I definitely expect to see anyone who is like a GALEFORCE connoisseur, someone who loves GALEFORCE is going to be picking up this unit. I think she's gonna have a nice impact on that meta. But when it comes to other game modes, I don't think she'll have quite the big impact. We kind of expected base Emblem to have a big impact with her ability to turn off saves, but what we essentially found was that like melee flyers, especially beast melee flyers, don't really have like the easiest ability to fit into teams in some rules, and so I don't expect this Embla to do that as well. Even with the nice support, she might be able to like do some charging, kind of like Do Asker does, and maybe that will give her a niche into SD, but I wouldn't really like bet on it, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. Let's go ahead and move on to our next unit. Oh, what the? Wait, what? Oh, we actually are getting Alcryst. We have to be getting Alcryst. We're getting a Lapis already. That's insane. We don't even have all the engaged characters. And she has a preference weapon. Okay, I love Lapis. If you don't know, she's one of my favorite female characters from Engage. She's like right under Citrine. So I'm very happy to see her get an ult already. Especially because like her other version was like the 4-star, which was fine. But like I always prefer having a more powerful version. Either way, we have our preference weapon, Wildflower Edge. Okay, we have one absolutely insane weapon here. So let's start at the top. We have cancel remaining +1, so we have a very mobile Lapis. We have slaying, and then if unit has entered combat during this turn. So essentially, if she's already done combat, any ally within 5 spaces of her can warp to a space within 2 spaces of her. This is really powerful warping, right? Now, it's not as good as like Wings of Mercy 4, but it is very, very good. And if you are using this on GALEFORCE, which this banner seems to be leaning towards, you can kind of position your units in such a way where they don't need Wings of Mercy anymore. And this lets you open up B slots, which is really good. So this already is amazing as it is. It also could be working full in SD, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. When she initiates combat, or if there's a space within, or if there's an ally within 2 spaces, she'll get +5 stats. She'll also get an additional amount of stats based off 15% of her speed at the start of combat. She'll get 20% true damage based off her speed, not with AoEs, and she gets damage reduction by X%. If it's the first combat she's been in this turn, it's 80%, otherwise it'll be 40%, and it is Brave damage reduction. When she initiates combat, she'll deal 10 burn damage to the target and all foes within 2 spaces, which is really powerful, and she inflicts a new status condition called Share Spoils on the target through its next actions. So essentially what this will do is like you will inflict this effect on only your target, right? So this is kind of interesting because it will essentially make it so if Lapis didn't kill them, they will be weaker to future combats as they will have less stats, and they'll also not be able to use pierceable damage reduction. The thing is that typically when you're going to be using this unit, if you don't secure the kill, you're probably not going in at all. So I'm not sure exactly how good this will be. It'll be interesting and we'll probably need some testing. So when it comes to this effect, we'll really have to test it to see how it works. If it's only like she applies this after combat, so then only other allies can activate this, or if she can activate this herself, and then she can have like a triple GALEFORCE like Edelgard, it will be difficult to say. The example they show only shows her like not finishing off of Mortis, and then, you know, Alcryst coming to finish him off. So I'm not exactly sure, but if it is the case where she can activate it herself, it definitely isn't as powerful as it seems. I will say that. We also have Flared Sparrow, which is a very nice upgrade. That's definitely what you want in her A slot. And we have a new B skill in Flow Guard 4. And essentially what this does, you get speed and defense -4 on the foe, you get full no follow-up when you're initiating combat, and also you'll get guards, so you'll inflict guard on them, just like normal Flow Guard 3, but the new effect is essentially that you will inflict special cooldown +1 on the foe before their first attack. So this essentially is a way of just protecting Lapis to make sure she doesn't get exploded in retaliation on that first attack back. It's pretty nice, but I don't really think it's the best B skill, and you'll probably end up changing it for something else. Okay, who's up next? Is this one of the DLC characters, isn't it? Yes, it is. It's Nel. Okay, so we have Nel, Dragon Infantry Green. Is she going to be a demote? She is. Okay, so we have Dragon Bloom Plus, and this is going to be an inheritable weapon, where if the unit initiates combat, or if they're in 2 spaces of an ally, you're going to get +4 stats, you're going to get true damage based off 15% of your speed with no AoEs, and you reduce the damage from foe's first attack by X%. If it's the first combat, you get 80%, otherwise you get 40%, and it is Brave DR, and then lastly you get adaptive damage. This is a nice inheritable weapon overall for dragons, but I will say that dragons have been kind of spoiled this year, and there are some better ones in my opinions. Personally, I like the Kana ones a lot more, as it does give flat DR, which I find a little bit more powerful, though this does give true damage, so if you're kind of missing power, I guess this is an option as well. What's really nice here though is we have attack speed Scal 3 fodder, which means that's going to be a lot easier to inherit attack speed Scal 4 without having to sacrifice like the whole unit. And we also have Cancer Roar 3 here, which is a nice upgrade as well. This is just nice fodder to see added to the pool, even if it is seasonally locked. Okay, who is the star that... Oh, Joel is going to freak out. Say it's Sharena in the front. Oh my god. Oh my god, Joel must be dying right now. We have Bridal Sharena and Veronica. That is so cute. Oh my god, that's so cute. I love the art too. The art looks amazing. Oh my god, we have a Lance Cab. Oh my gosh. Duo Sharena. Okay, so we have a preference weapon in United Bouquet. This has Slaying, and at the start of turn 1, if Sharena's HP is greater than 25%, she'll get attack and speed plus 6 to herself for 1 turn, and she gets 1 extra space of movement, so that's 2 visible bonuses. Nice there. And then she'll also get a ton of stats based off the number of allies within 3 rows or 3 columns, plus 5, so a max of 14 stats there. She gets full no follow-up. She gets 20% true damage based off her speed, but not with AoEs. And then when she deals damage to a foe during combat, she'll heal X HP based off the number of spaces from where she started her combat to where the end. So like essentially like a clash effects. This essentially will be like up to 12 HP per hit. So it's a lot of healing per hit for attacks. We also have no quarter. We have a new A skill and attack speed Excel. And what this essentially does is this is an improved clash skill. So if the unit or foe initiates combat, you count the amount of spaces they've moved. You'll get attack and speed plus X, but then you'll get an additional attack and speed plus X during combat based off the number of spaces from start position to end position. Just like a clash effect would work, up to 4, right? So you can get up to a 10 in attack and speed. But this is where stuff gets crazy. If you initiate combat, you're also going to get flat damage reduction based off X times 3 during combat. So let's say you move 4 spaces, that's 12 flat damage reduction you're getting, which is really, really good. And then also, because they had to make it a little bit more insane, if the foe has an offensive special, you also get to reduce damage by X times 3 when their special procs. Overall, it's a really powerful A skill. It's going to give you less power than Flared Sparrow in straight nuking capabilities, but it's going to offer a lot more defensive functionality. And so for units who really want that defensive functionality, this is going to be a great option that's kind of going to be a parallel to Flared Sparrow, which is really nice. And being able to get a ton of flat DR can really make your unit a lot more powerful, especially if they have percentage damage reduction, something like Brave Crom, right? This is a very, very nice skill. We also have Potent 4 in the B skill, so that's a new option to inherit that other than Emblem Marth. But we also have a Preference C skill, Forever Yours. Okay, so what you get with this is you get Canto Distance plus 1, a max of 4. So she's going to be very, very mobile, right? She has 4 movement, and she also gets a ton of Canto, which is really good. And then when she initiates combat, or if there's an ally within 3 spaces, she'll get plus 4 to all stats. She gets 40% damage reduction. She gets full tempo, which is really nice. But then this is where things get really crazy. After she acts, if an ally within 3 spaces of her goes into combat, it's going to grant Sharena another action after that ally's combat. And if she already has used Canto, it re-enables Canto once again so she can use it again. It's going to happen once per turn. This makes Sharena extremely mobile and extremely dangerous, right? Essentially what this will allow Sharena to do is she can go in, kill something really hard, Canto back a little bit, have somebody else go in and kill, reactivate herself, kill something else again, and then Canto all the way back out. Because, right, she has Canto Distance Max 4, which is really big. So just imagine a T-Ira who can attack twice per turn. It's very, very scary, and I think that it's going to be pretty powerful. And then we also have Sharena's Duo skill, which grants herself another action, and if the Canto's been used, it re-enables it. So this essentially gives a way for Sharena to have 3 actions without even running Gale Force. If she is running Gale Force, she can have 4 actions, which is absolutely insane. Sharena has Power Crept Edelgard. That is right, Edelgard Simps. You have been dethroned by Sharena. It is time for Sharena's reign, and I do think this is actually insane. This is going to make her an absolutely powerhouse as a Gale Force unit. No other unit in the game has 4 actions. 3 actions is already just ridiculous. So having the ability to have 4 actions is going to be totally nuts. Now, one thing is one of them is tied to her Duo skill, which does mean that you're going to have either take out the Duo units or the Harmonic units or the Duo's hindrance. So that is something you're going to have to consider as something Edelgard doesn't have to. But even with that in mind, she does get 3 actions without having to worry about that. So overall, it's a very, very powerful effect. When it comes to roles, Sharena is just 100% a Gale Force unit in my opinion. She also can do very well in a hit and run strategy. The one thing you're going to have to consider though is that she can't really be a Gale Force initiator because she has so much healing and DR in her kit. And so even if you do put her into like, let's say Wings of Mercy range with something like Bernadetta, she'll heal out of that range. Now, so what that means is that you essentially need her to be either a follow-up unit or like she needs to chill like close enough where she can get into combat herself, as she does have 4 movement, right? So she is very mobile. And so essentially what you could do is you could put like Wings of Mercy in her B slot. Potent is nice, but honestly it's not going to be that big of a deal to lose when it comes to Gale Force strategies. And then what you would do is you have your Initiator go in, initiate, activate the Gale Force, get in the Wings of Mercy range. Sharena comes in and kills, backs up a little bit. Next person comes in and hits their target. Reactivating Sharena, she goes in and kills again. She procs Gale Force, she kills again. Hopefully all the harmonics are dead by that point, or the duos. She pops her duo skill, kills again. So I think Sharena's gonna pop off there. And the great thing is that on this banner, we also have Embla, which really enables Sharena in a lot of ways, because Sharena is a cav unit, which means she doesn't have access to special acceleration very easily. You'd have to run like the Heavy Blade Seal, which is really not what you want to be running in 2024. But with Embla, you can lower that special cooldown from 4 to 2, and with like 2 to 3 actions, you're going to very easily be able to proc that Gale Force within that amount of time, even without special acceleration. And so I think Embla and Sharena are going to work really, really well together, to be honestly. It's going to be a very nice combo there. You could also use other units as well, of course, like Valori and stuff like that. But that is definitely going to be her main roles, in my opinion, hit and run and Gale Force. She is quite tanky as well, which is really nice. And so when it comes to game modes, I can definitely see her being used in Aether Raid's offense. I think that's going to be the #1 place you're going to see Sharena. But it is possible she shows up in like Summoner duels as well, and like a melee cav line team alongside like Dagger or Wind Dagger. And essentially she's going to play the same role as like T-Ira would, where she just goes in, she kills stuff, she gets out. She's going to be kind of like your finishing unit, right? You don't really want to send Sharena into first unless you could kill their cancel control unit, or they don't have cancel control at all. But you definitely don't want to send her in and get her sacrificed, right? Because she has so much action economy that she's really going to do well in SD when you can set her up correctly. And so that's going to be one of the main roles she can. And then as a duo unit, of course, she'll score really well in Arena. And with having all these actions, you could probably take out the whole Arena team just with Sharena herself. So very, very cool ult. Very, very excited for her. And I'm mostly just excited for Joel. I'm sure Joel is just like screaming right now. So very happy overall. And our free-to-play unit will be Groom Alcryst, which was pretty good. I don't know if he's going to get his preference skill on his free version, but if he does, that's pretty big. That would be a very nice upgrade there, especially if he has a preference weapon as well. So very excited for that. Let's move on to the final part of the video, should you pull. Now when it comes to this banner, I'm going to be completely honest. There is a nice fodder here and there's some good stuff. But really, in my opinion, this banner is mostly a Gale Force banner. This is like a hardcore Gale Force banner. All the main units on this game, on this banner, except for like Nel, essentially, are Gale Force units. That is where they're going to just excel on a crazy, crazy level. They all have ways to get actions, to get around saves, to charge specials for Gale Force. This is a Gale Force banner. And so if you're a massive fan of Gale Force, if you're like a Gale Force connoisseur like me, DTM, Phoenix Master, all of them, right? You're definitely going to want to pull this banner because these units are so cool. They're going to be so much fun to play with. If you're not a big Gale Force fan, but these are your favorites, definitely pull them anyways. They're going to be powerful units, so you're definitely going to want to grab them. But if you are somebody who just doesn't enjoy Gale Force, who doesn't really care for these units, I do think this banner can be a skip. The fodder is nice on this banner, but it's definitely not like fodder that's going to like completely warp the meta or anything like that. So if you don't feel like you need these units, definitely feel like you can pass, because we do have quite a few banners coming up. At the end of this month, we have one of the most insane legendary banners we've ever had. We have Emblem Mark and Emblem Ike sharing in red, which means if you don't have those Emblem heroes, you're definitely going to want them. I think they've had a very big impact on the meta so far. Lagu's Friend 4 is just insane, so if you don't have enough orbs to get that, definitely save orbs for that legendary banner, because I think it's going to be worth more than this banner will be. The other two major things, of course, is that summer is coming up quite soon, and we all know how Faye treats summer. It gets quite spicy, so if you are like a fan of spice, definitely save some orbs for that. And then lastly, we do have Choose Your Legends coming up in August, which is a few months off, but you definitely want to start saving orbs now, as that banner typically has 4 sparks, so you're going to want a good amount of orbs going into it, if those are your favorite characters, or you're just excited to see what they bring. But now I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of this banner? Are you as excited as I am that there's just so much Gale Force in this banner, like I can just like taste it? Or are you like a massive Sharena fan and you're just glad to see her finally get ult after so many years? Either way, I'd love to hear about it, so make sure to drop a comment down below. Let me know what you're excited about. As always, I'd like to thank all my members for their constant support. This has been Oblivion. I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem Heroes.